It's Nolan.
Lot of broken promises I've been waiting on. Lot of y'all been hating, but that's the way it go. People I used to run with trying to play me. No matter what they do, can't let them change me, no. Can't even start my day, somebody feel away. Last night I signed some paperwork, today my life could change. Can't even celebrate, this shit must come with older age. I'm about to reach for bigger heights, somehow I feel afraid. Shut down my phone for some peace of mind, I just need some time for me and mine. Seem like all I do is hit the street and grind. Dollar after dollar facing scrutiny, just got this LSC. This music shit ain't what it used to be, I thought it was a dream. Had a vision for my team, wrote a movie picture perfect, now they got me cutting scenes. Plus my girl, she want a ring, I can't lie, man, she deserve it. From the lions to the lamb, she held me down while facing serpents. It get deeper than the surface, down the stress, but weighing deep. Gotta switch up all my sheets, cause I've been sweating in my sleep. Know my karma gon' be sweet, read the comments, clear my conscience to the beast. They say I'm soaring what I reap, so now them comments come in peace, yeah. Lot of broken promises I've been waiting on. Lot of y'all been hating, but that's the way it go. People I used to run with trying to play me. No matter what they do, can't let them change me, no. Lot of broken promises I've been waiting on. Lot of y'all been hating, but that's the way it go. Women I used to love them try to play me. No matter what they do, can't let them change me, no.
What's going on, beautiful people? It's the kid J Nolan here. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, your number one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. Hope everybody is doing amazingly well, because I know that I am. But today we're going to be getting into Joe Budden speaking on Drake's deal. Okay, now I spoke intimately about Drake's deal coming into the music industry when he first signed his deal with Aspire, which led him to, of course, that was with Tez Bryant and James Prince Jr., Jazz Prince. He signed with Aspire Music. They then got him linked up with Wayne for the Cash Money situation. And of course, well, Young Money and then Cash Money and then Universal. Right. So that was a big cluster F going on with his situation there. He's splitting his money a lot of different ways. Nonetheless, now, of course, the subject of conversation seems to be what type of deal is Drake in today? Why is it that he was able to get that full $500 million deal from Universal or Republic or whomever cut the check or whomever is giving him the incremental, bonuses, I guess you could say. And the reason why a lot of people are talking about this is because there seems to be a narrative going around that Drake is, well, there's a couple narratives. There's the narrative that Drake is in a licensing deal with Universal and he basically owns his masters and he can do whatever the fuck he wants to do. And then there's another narrative that a lot of people like to speak on, which is that Drake is in a glorified 360 deal where he is still some sort of slave to Universal and they're eating off of all of his business ventures, right? From music, touring, merch, everything. There's a lot of people that seem to believe that he's in a 360 deal and that he's basically a glorified slave artist on the label, right? So as you can see, there's two different narratives. There's the freedom, and then there's the bondage, right? And depending on what side of the spectrum you sit on, typically whether you're a Drake fan or you're not, is basically where you're going to stand in what you believe, right? So that's been a heavy topic of conversation as of late, especially with the $400 to $700 million deal that they signed with him back in 2021, I believe it was. We're going to get into that. Joe Budden spoke on it. We're going to get into the different types of record deals that are available to artists today in 2024 and just kind of break down what type of options are on the table. It's not a definitive or exhaustive list or an exhaustive explanation of everything, but just to give you an overview of what people are dealing with in the game, right? And then we're going to talk about what someone alleges is the reason why Drake and Yachty recently had a falling out and Yachty was taken off of his own song featuring Drake, which is now just Drake by himself. All right, so we're going to address those couple things in this particular video. All right, So, number one, let's get to Joe Budden. Because basically, he comes out and he speaks on this guy by the name of Brian Zizek. Shout out to Brian Zizek, aka Z. I know Z personally. He actually was a very integral part in the development of me as an artist. He didn't manage me. He didn't do none of those types of things. But in my early days of releasing music online, I used to actually get my music placed on this website called djbooth.net, right? And Z, aka Brian, he was the founder, the CEO, and all of that good shit of DJ Booth. So me and him had numerous interactions during my days of placing music online, because they would put my music up. They would do editorials about the stuff that I was doing. And right when I was really about to get like really close with them, with what they were doing, they actually stopped DJ Booth and turned it into a straight up editorial site where they just did like articles, and they really stopped posting music because artists stopped allowing their music to be posted on there with the advent of streaming, right? And all of the copyright and stuff like that. So what he ended up doing was going off and creating the streaming platform Audio Max. So if you know about Audio Max, if you've ever listened to Audio Max, understand that that's the streaming platform owned and ran by Z, aka Brian Zizuk, right? So as these different narratives have been coming out online, and people have been talking and speculating and trying to get to the bottom of what the situation is with Drake's deal, Brian Zizuk, I'm just going to call him Z because that's what we affectionately know him as, and he was just a part of our Sync conference earlier this year, the virtual one we did, so we're still in contact. But when he sees these narratives floating online, he likes to try to give people a little bit of extra context as to what's going on, right? He likes to explain things for educational purposes. He's not necessarily on Drake's side, but his estimation is that Drake has a lot more power than a lot of people seem to believe, at least power as it concerns to his career, right? Not saying that he's just this, all-seeing eye type of person, but with his career, he basically is the arbiter of his own destiny, right? And apparently, Joe Budden's been seeing him come out and kind of debunk some of the things that people are saying online. And Joe Budden ain't been taking too kindly to it. He doesn't like the fact that Z is basically coming out being a Drake Avenger, right? So we're going to play a clip of Joe talking about the situation, his estimation of what this licensing deal that Drake is in, because he is in a licensing deal. If you look up the music that he's been releasing all this year, I believe if you look up For All the Dogs, you're going to see, OVO under exclusive license to Universal Republic or something along those lines. So he is in a licensing deal. We spoke about licensing deals, as Kendrick Lamar is also in a licensing deal with Interscope. It's interesting to see the narratives that contradict themselves or have different connotation between these two artists, right? People see that Kendrick Lamar is in a licensing deal with Interscope. They say, oh, he runs his shit. He's like a independent artist. When it comes to Drake being in a licensing deal with Universal, I guess maybe because we know the price tag that it came with, they say, oh, they own you. You're a slave. I don't know either one to be true, but here's Joe Budden's take on the situation. Okay? Give me a second here. As with all Joe Budden clips, we only play the audio because the video will end up in a copyright claim.
But one of them fucking pages kept and keeps commenting on all of the myths surrounding Drake's mega deal, right?
I know you're talking about.
I think it's Z.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
What is he saying?
I don't know because I'm trained enough to not listen to nothing he says.
Okay.
But what he's saying with every time one of the Drake deal rumors comes up, actually I did say one. I'm sorry about that. Okay. I got you right now. You go ahead and say a little something. I'm coming.
He's he higher up at Spotify or something?
Because where's this week? He just kept saying this shit and it kept pissing me off.
I know what you're talking about, though.
I know I bookmarked it. Or maybe I fell off. Here we go. One last time. Drake signed a licensing deal with UMG. He controls the creative direction of his music and when he releases it, but he can't drop music outside the deal. The agreement is exclusive until the term ends. This is standard for all licensing deals. So he keeps popping up to say, hey, all that shit y'all keep saying about Drake is a myth. I want to let the audience and anybody listening know that that is one of the biggest myths that the music industry is pushing upon naive and ignorant people today, that a licensing deal means freedom. Listen to Joe Budden, even if you don't trust me. It does not. That is not, a licensing deal does not mean you have freedom to do whatever the fuck you want. Actually, it means the exact opposite. It means you keep it. That's the label telling you that they don't want to be liable for none of your shit, no way. You keep it. That's not where the value is. We're just going to share in this license, and for us to agree to do that, here's what you have to agree to do. And most of the artists cave. That's the negotiating table. It don't mean like all of the artists is running around saying and all these labels running around talking about partnership. Bah humbug. You have a licensing deal, which means you own it, they control it, and y'all have come to terms about how to control it. In that licensing deal, you can't go out there and fucking knuck if you buck.
That's true.
Just figured a nicer way of saying some shit.
You will get a phone call.
Again.
I'm telling you that somebody's gonna call you, your partners, even though it's yours, and say, hey,
You can't do
no, what are you doing? What are you even thinking? Pull it back. No, there's terms that you got to agree to. I just think that a lot of artists, creators are being fooled with the new word tricks.
You know what it is, right?
Out there.
Partnership.
It's
Yeah.
not
ownership.
It's because for so long, and we had this talk when we talked about Chance before. It's with so long that ownership, partnership, all of that, people was concerned about the fact that I own my masters or I don't own my masters. So now the new shit is, yo, you can own your masters. They're yours.
Yeah.
We still controlling this shit, but now you own your masters, so now that gives the
Go
artist.
tell your friends.
A little bit more incentive.
that.
And what does that matter when you don't know how to administer it? Or you don't know how to do anything with it. Okay,
So
you
that's
own
the
some
new
shit
game.
that you don't
You
even know how to
owning your
apply.
shit don't mean nothing because the people that's licensing it
Know what
are
to do
the
with it.
people that know what to do
do
when
with
they.
it.
All right. Now, I typically tend to kind of understand where Joe is coming from when he speaks on music business, right? This time, I get where he's coming from. I get where the room is coming from, but I kind of disagree. Okay? And the reason why I kind of disagree is because they're basically making it seem as though the industry has basically fooled the artists, right? Fooled the artists to say, okay, you can own your masters, but we still own it. Or you can own your masters, but it doesn't mean any fucking thing, right? And the reason why I kind of disagree with Joe here is because Joe was never in a licensing agreement, right? That's one thing. Joe never had the luxury of being in a licensing agreement. Joe had the luxury of being in a terrible deal with Def Jam and essentially got extorted by his management crew, you know, who ushered him into the game. And we talked about Joe, and I was a fan of Joe's music. I listened to Joe's music. I listened to all the music projects when they came out. I had the Joe Budden self-titled album in 2003 when it came out. All of that good stuff. So I'm not saying that to disparage his career. I'm one of the people that says, yo, when people say he can't rap, I say, dog, that's a fucking lie, right? But we also know that Joe, when he finally got out of his Def Jam situation, he went out and continued to sign bad deals. He went to go sign with a company called Amalgam Digital, which he thought was going to be his independent savior. And he ended up being the face, the voice box, and everything for this company, Amalgam Digital, even to the fact that him being associated with them influenced other artists to go sign with Amalgam Digital, and all of them got robbed, got fucked over. Their music never got promoted. Them niggas were basically the same as they were before they got there. They might have just took a little bit of an upfront. I don't even think Amalgam had that much money to give them upfront. Right? And he was there for years. They manufactured a Joe Budden album via Amalgam Digital, put it in Best Buy stores, and misspelled this nigga name. Put Joe Budden on the cover with 3 Ds. Right? So I can't really say I'm going to take a licensing deal serious or a licensing deal description from somebody who was sitting in that particular seat. You know what I'm saying? Now, when he did get his shit together in 2016, I believe it was, the last project he put out, Rage in the Machine, he went over to Empire, which was a much more, I'm sure, lucrative situation because Empire was giving out sweet deals in 2016. I don't think they're giving those same offers out in 2024. So he kind of got in at the right time. There was a successful, moderately successful project. He was able to tour it. But on the heels of that tour, he said, dog, I ain't doing this shit no more. I'm giving it up. He left out the game. 2016, there was not very many artists in the music industry that even had a licensing deal. I don't even know if that was even like fully introduced all the way in 2016. So I'm not going to say that he has understanding of what it is that's in the paperwork that these artists are signing on, you know what I'm saying, unless he's seeing it for himself, right? But what is a licensing deal? Let's get to that, right? What is it specifically? Without the conjecture, without the other shit. So a licensing deal is typically for artists that have a large catalog of music and proven sales numbers, right? So this is not for somebody that's coming into the game with no proven history. This is not for somebody who's never put no numbers up on the board. You got to come into the game with catalog. You got to come in with a sales history that actually warrants that you retain ownership of your music, right? Owning your masters is always going to be a win because when royalties are produced on those masters, you need to be getting paid. If you don't have no ownership of that, or they're continuing to just hang over the fact that you got an advance, and this is the money that they put out into you, you're never going to get shit. And the reason why you don't never get shit is because artists are typically in a situation where they're getting a maximum of anywhere between 15 to 17% of the royalties. And that's after recoupment, meaning we're going to make the money we make that we invested into you first. Once we break even, you will then start to make 17%. Right? But the labels hardly ever will tell you that you recoup. Some artists have recouped 4 or 5 times over, still don't get royalties. But on the other end, if you own the master and you're only licensing it to them, what does it mean to license it? It means you get to house this in your catalog temporarily, right? So, like me, I'm not in a licensing deal, but I partake in music licensing, right? And it's all the same terminology. So in a licensing situation for myself, when I license a song to be used on TV, you have different terms in a deal. You have your non-exclusive, you have your exclusive, right? This is other shit. But basically, when you allow somebody to license your shit, you're saying you get to use this based on the money that you're giving me, right? But I retain ownership of it. But in a certain period of time, it will leave your catalog and it will always be mine. At a certain point, you will drop off unless we renegotiate the contract and allow you to, you know what I'm saying, redo the terms. Right? Under a licensing deal, an artist grants the label the right to use and earn revenue on their music publicly in exchange for a flat fee or a percentage of the royalties. This agreement enables artists to maintain ownership while still getting the perks of working with a major label. They say, for example, a label who offers a 360 deal to a previously unsigned artist with substantial sales will want to ensure the successful release of new music. To do that, they'll typically want to control previous albums or remove them from the market completely. A licensing deal covering previous work can help ensure maximum revenue from the new music. In this case, the artist can retain the rights to their previous works and prevent the label from having control of the copyright. So let's say the label says, we want a new album from you. Okay? But we don't necessarily want to give you a huge advance, right? So then the artist says, okay, I don't want an advance. What you're going to give me is control of my previous albums so that I can make whatever money is left to make off of those previous albums. I now want to have that. Right? So y'all can exchange in this new project, but the royalties and the ownership that y'all previously had over my old catalog, I want that to now come to me because I need to make some money off of this shit. Y'all niggas been pulling from this shit for a minute. I need to at least try to see if I could get water from a rock. Right? That's one situation. Or you can say, y'all niggas, in 5 years, I want my whole entire catalog to come back to me, right? Because there is a life of a copyright. I think it's like 35 years or some shit like that. There's also, old Def Jam contracts and stuff like that. Artists were supposed to be able to get their music back after 12 years or something like that. A couple artists did. Not many have. All depends on your contracts, right? But in so many words, the artist wants to join in on the profit share. So they say, you can hold on to this. I'll let you borrow it for the next 5 years. After 5 years, this new album that I just gave y'all comes back to me entirely. You guys will be cut out. So even when, let's say if I continue to get sync opportunities for the songs on this album, let's say if I get into a Drake, Kendrick Lamar level beef, and people start going back and listening to my entire catalog of music, creating new royalties. When those new royalties are generated, I will be the 100%, well, not 100%, because you still got to pay the contributors, the people that worked on it with you. But I will be the primary benefactor of those royalties. You niggas will no longer eat off of this shit after 5 years. But now that there's new interest in those projects, that's a lot of fucking money coming in, right? So that's where the licensing deal is sweet for an artist. Now, Joe's perspective of that and Imani's perspective is just owning your masters means nothing if you don't know what to do with it. The thing about it is these artists today, they're a lot more business savvy than you guys, right? And that's no shot at Joe and Imani, but y'all didn't have glorious music careers, and I understand because I ain't had a glorious music career, goddamn. But y'all also didn't have much backing. Y'all didn't have an ideal team behind you to like really put y'all in position, right? Because let's look at a group like the Migos. Just a couple years ago, the Migos got with a company, and let me look up this company while I'm here. I think it's called Reservoir Music. But let me just look it up real quick. Yeah, so they got with a company called Reservoir Media. And Reservoir basically came in and did a pub admin deal with the Migos, right? And basically, they came to the table and started finding all of these different outlets to where they could go make more money off of their music, right? So even if the label, if QC ain't doing their job, even if Universal Motown ain't doing their job, Reservoir Media is in the background saying, all right, we got, a catalog of 70 Migos records. Let's see what we could get featured in Atlanta, the TV show. Let's go see what we could get featured in this TV show here, this TV show here, this person here, this movie, this here. You know what I'm saying? So then they start generating more revenue on behalf of the Migos, even if the label ain't moving. I'm not saying that the label wasn't moving for them. I'm just saying whether or not they were, this company is in the background finding more and more opportunities. Now, of course, they're going to share in the revenue, but they're also helping you increase your yearly earnings, right? In 2021, Reservoir Media was the first publishing company in the music industry to offer to publicly trade the catalog on Wall Street, right? So now, at that point, the Migos catalog was now up for public trading on Wall Street. So there was even more money to be made for people that, wanted to be like, you know what? I'm going to invest into this company so that I could own a share in Migos music. You know what I'm saying? Which created even more money coming into the fold for it to be trickled down to the artists. So This stuff is happening more and more like every day, especially in like 2022. 2022, a lot of motherfuckers started selling either a portion of their catalog or selling the entirety of their catalog. And the reason why they were doing it was so that they could get people behind them that could go out and exploit the music beyond what they could with their own ownership or their limited ownership of it. And they were either going to take an upfront fee for it, or in this case of like Timbaland or some other folks, rather than take $100 million up front, he might have took $25 million up front and then became an owner, a part owner in the company, to where he continues to profit off of his music even though he sold it, because now he's one of the fellow owners, right? So there's different ways that you can pull plays in the industry where you bring somebody else in to help you, right? You could go do a deal with a company that just licenses your shit all fucking day. You know what I'm saying? You could go do a pub admin deal with a company like the Mezzo Agency, right? Shout out to Tiffany Luttrell. Where all they do is sing your music out, find opportunities for it, collect the money, they take their little 5 to 10%, and they send you the rest, right? There's a lot more artists that are doing these types of things, and that shit is changing their lives tremendously for years to come. But Joe Budden never found himself in that type of situation because he sold his pub before he even put his first album out. So he never got to see nothing. When Pump It Up was in goddamn, I told y'all this shit before. When Pump It Up was in all the goddamn movies and video games, Def Jam was eating off that shit. The publishing company was eating off that shit. He wasn't. So he would never understand what it's like to control your masters, right? And then when he did learn what it was like to control his masters, when he was an independent artist, he didn't have the necessary partnerships to exploit his music on a higher level. Plus, he didn't have exploitable music because he wanted to make 7-minute songs with no hook. Who's going to play that on a TV show or a film or a radio advertisement or a movie trailer? He stopped making commercially viable music at a certain point to where his masters were not valuable at all. Right? So that's why I take what he's saying about the Drake situation with a grain of salt. I think Drake definitely has enough pull to where, let's just look at 100 gigs. If he wanted to put that 100 gigs project out without doing it for free, if he brought that to the label and said, I want to put out 100 gigs of music, they would have said, fuck yeah, let's do it. You want to do it tomorrow? Shit. We need some positive press. The problem is he circumvented the label. He tried to go and do some shit, create his own website, blah, 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 set up the server, all this shit, try to do some free shit. And Universal said, bro, we don't do free over here. You know that shit, bruh. We already, you know what I'm saying? Drake used to drop his music on SoundCloud first. Remember the era when Drake used to drop on SoundCloud, new freestyle, new diss record, going at, oh, this is his response to Pusha T. 2 birds, 1 stone just hit SoundCloud. Y'all remember that shit. At a certain point, Universal got so angry about Drake putting his songs on SoundCloud first, them niggas went and said, SoundCloud, we finna own y'all ass. So them niggas then became part owner in SoundCloud. They said, bitch, y'all not finna get these Drake songs first, but now you can because we own the whole building. That nigga ain't dropping songs on SoundCloud no more. Tell you that. That shit ain't, that shit wasn't so appealing once the label came in and said shit, but But if he comes to them first and lets them know what his plan is, they gonna let that nigga do whatever the fuck he want, because his record sales for the past 15 years have actually given a lot more artists leeway to have deals. If he wasn't there, a lot of motherfuckers wouldn't have got deals, because who else was producing that level of money for the company to take chances on other artists? Right? And I know some people are probably watching this video like, bro, you be giving me mixed signals. 1 minute you hate Drake, 1 minute you don't. I don't hate nobody. Right? My channel is called Inside the Industry, which means it's my responsibility to give y'all the truth, or as much as close to the truth as I can possibly get, right? My whole thing is not to give y'all misinformation. My whole thing is not to put out some fucking crafted ass narrative for my own personal benefit. Like, if the nigga's in a lucrative deal, he's in a lucrative deal. If the nigga's in a fucked up deal and it's kind of common knowledge, I'm gonna talk about that shit. Just like I talked about Joe Budden. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to his personal life and shit that he's done weird, I'm gonna say he's done some weird shit. I'm not taking none of that back. But I can acknowledge that those two things are separate. Right? So when it comes to Joe, I would just say, man, I thought you had reached a point where you stopped talking about dude. You said you was going to stop talking about dude. It seems like you kind of are invested in his downfall. And that also leads to the Drake and Yachty fallout. And I don't mean invested in his downfall like you want to see the nigga fall off. Because you say you love his music and love everything he puts out. But it seems that you be playing. So y'all know I talked a few days ago about Joe going on Yachty's A Safe Place podcast. They had a pretty good conversation. They were able to go over, that big debacle they had on Everyday Struggle where Joe was just screaming at the top of his lungs at Yachty, basically saying, nigga, you're stupid, you're dumb, you're fucked up, you don't know nothing about Biggie, you don't know nothing about Tupac, you don't know what kind of deal you in, bro. What the fuck are you doing? Right? Had a cool conversation. But apparently, Duff Juice, and we talked about Duff Juice the other day. Duff Juice came out and basically was saying that he believes that, I won't say he believes. He claims that he knows an insider that has information to say Kendrick Lamar's album will drop before the fourth quarter of this year. And the tone of the album is Mr. Morale is Dead. Not the title, but the tone of the album, right? It's the same Duff Juice. Terrible name, but this is the information he's coming with. His latest update is the reason for Yachty and Drake falling out, unfollowing, getting them kicked off the song, the Super Soak record, is because him and Joe Budden were recently yucking it up, having a great time on Yachty's podcast, right? Because Drake, for the past, let's just say 9 months or so, he's been in a weird space with Joe Budden. Him and Joe have had a on again, off again, love-hate relationship throughout the duration of Drake's career. When Drake first took off, he was a huge fan of Joe, even going on Joe Budden TV before one of his shows in New York, bowing down to him, telling him how much he enjoyed his music, how much he studied his craft, how much he wanted to be like him, all those different things. As his career took different shapes and forms, Joe was critical of some of the music he's put out, critical of some of the things that he said in his lyrics, all of those things notwithstanding. Drake started firing back, started making fun of Joe Budden, started basically saying he's a loser, he's a quitter, he's a fake, he's a farce, he's a pussy, and all these different things, right? Even said something to the effect of, it could get ugly for you out here, you know what I'm saying? Basically, low-key threatening Joe Budden and his podcast members, right? Called them a bunch of jabronis, in a quote, right? And ever since For All the Dogs, where Joe came out and told him to stop rapping about 22 and 25-year-old women and get some women his age, Drake ain't been fucking with that nigga, period. Right? So now you got Yachty inviting him up there, and Yachty's been one of Drake's voice boxes and sirens throughout the entire Kendrick Lamar saga this year. So he's been locked in with Drake the whole time. So I'm guessing he expected more from Yachty. I guess Yachty never ran it by him first to be like, yo, I'm thinking about getting Joe Budden on my pod. Is it cool? I guess he never thought he had to check in. Nigga said, well, shit, boy, he ain't check in, so I'm checking out. Nigga, and we finna check out this music video and this new record with your ass off of it. Now, again, this is all speculation. This is all third-party information from Duff Juice. So don't take it as the law. I still believe that all of this is a PR stunt. I don't believe Yachty and Drake are really at odds. I don't think there's smoke. In some of the updates that I received yesterday, folks are saying that Yachty refollowed Drake all over again. They're trying to pull some sort of manipulation tactic to promote the record. That's what I believe. But I don't think it's going to pay off because the record ain't that strong to begin with. I wish it was fucking canned to begin with. I wish it never existed. Told y'all I like rap Drake. I don't want to hear that fucking... I don't want to hear that shit, man. Never have, never will. But that's what I've got for y'all. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to say Joe's the source of that. Maybe he'll address it. Maybe he won't. He pretty much tackles all tasks on the Joe Budden podcast. I mean, it's a room full of 7 people. He's the one person that carries the show. You know what I mean? The rest of them just be in there collecting a check or something. But, you know, shout out to all of them for collecting their check, because a lot of people would. All right. Let me know what y'all think of all this down below in the comments. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Become an insider. I will catch y'all on the next one. Y'all be safe out there, y'all. Much love and respect. Peace.
King of my city and cul-de-sac. Coming out swinging like soldier rag. Leading my people like quarterback. Boy, I study this shit, I'm an almanac. Had to get up and grind. Knowledge is booming, I'm here to apply. Came with the chip and the dip, it just single the mind. We finna do more than survive. I need my check. Spinning the block for the Gouda. We hitting the jeweler to flood out the net. We don't do beef for computers, I'm straight out the sewer. We come when you rest. Niggas be looking perplexed, so keeping my foot on their neck. No map, I trust my gut for the quest. With drama, I'm fully abreast. I was ready for years and they doubted me. All of a sudden, they tell me they proud of me. I've been dropping these haters like calories. Cross them out, I came back with some boundaries. Stand for my honor, but too raw, no corner. Packing the stick with a drummer. Wanna catch my bad, won't fumble. I done came too far to be humble.